sometimes even when you have a discussion pre-pandemic Thanksgiving and you say like, nah, like we shouldn't really make like Thanksgiving dinner for just 2 people. You wake up on Thanksgiving Day and there's questions like, where's the pumpkin pie? And why don't we have Thanksgiving dinner food? So today we are going to try to make last minute Thanksgiving dinner. And it's going to include pumpkin pie, starting at 2:13 on Thanksgiving Day. It's going to be awesome. So I received this as a gift, and it's got a pumpkin pie recipe on it from 1983. So this pie recipe is older than I am. But in order to make the pumpkin pie, we need to make pie crust, which I have not done successfully before and only tried a couple of times. So we're going to try to make pie crust, and then we are going to try to make pumpkin pie. I've got 120 grams of flour. In order to make this a pumpkin pie that both of us can eat, I am using cup for cup. And I looked up a recipe that was specifically for a gluten-free crust, so hopefully this should turn out okay. It's a sour cream pie crust, so I'm excited about that because I also love sour cream. So we've got 120 grams of flour, and then I'm supposed to add in half a teaspoon of baking powder. Oh, nope, quarter teaspoon of baking powder. But I caught that mistake before I put it in, so like we're good. So we're off to a great start. Okay, and then a half a teaspoon of salt. So we're just gonna do that. Excellent. First step done. I have to whisk to combine. Haven't failed yet. Okay, the next thing we have to do is add chopped butter that has been chilled, toss to coat in the dry goods, and then flatten each chunk of butter between thumb and forefinger. So I have here 184 grams of unsalted butter, roughly chopped and chilled. It started to melt as I was chopping it, so I put it back in the fridge to chill. Okay, excellent. We're gonna toss. I will include the link below, obviously, to the recipe that I'm using for this because the website itself had a lot of reasons for why you're doing these things. Flattening the butter into the discs instead of doing it with like a pastry cutter was because of an explanation that I totally read all the way through, but something about allowing it to melt better when it's baking and being less delicate. You know, I should feel bad because someone wrote very good explanations and took the time to explain it so that people like me who don't bake a lot would understand why these steps were important. And, you know, I didn't really respect that. So I'm very sorry, but I'm gonna try my best to make this recipe anyway. This is also really fun. It feels like I'm playing with my food, which is just something I don't think we ever grow out of thinking is cool. So one time in college, I tried to make biscuits for our first Thanksgiving. Al and I had moved into an apartment together, and Canadian Thanksgiving is in October, and we went up to her parents for Canadian Thanksgiving, and I decided for American Thanksgiving that I was going to make Thanksgiving dinner in our apartment. So I remember my mom was flying somewhere for business, and I was frantically calling her like, how do you make an entire turkey? And so, you know, that went well. But then the other thing was that I decided I was going to make biscuits from scratch. Now, the good thing about back then is I didn't know that I couldn't eat wheat. So I was making them with normal ingredients. It wasn't like I was trying to do gluten-free stuff back then. But I messed up these biscuits so badly somehow, and I still don't know how. They were like rocks. I went to school in Canada, so they were like hockey pucks. And they were so bad. They were really hard, and then when you finally did get to like bite into them, or you softened them enough to bite into them, they just crumbled. It was really, really terrible. And Al has a picture of me that was affectionately called Ashley Lord of Biscuits. And it's just me literally like insisting that these biscuits are fine. And I was cramming all of the biscuits into my mouth because why not be funny with the disaster that you just had? And it's just biscuits everywhere. It was really terrible. Why am I telling this story? There's only like a handful of people that would even remember this happened, and now I've just ensured that a lot more will. Luckily, I think that picture does not exist anymore, so Ashley Lord of Biscuits has died. I am not good with being very delicate or following instructions closely. Okay, I think I've got almost all these pieces flattened into discs and then coated in more flour. So the next step is going to be to add in the sour cream and mix to moisten the dry ingredients. Ooh, I hate that word. Okay, so now we're going to add in the sour cream, mix to moisten the dry ingredients. The dough should be shaggy and crumbly, and then we're going to knead it until it kind of comes together a bit more. So let's try that. I've got the sour cream chilling. I'm going to get flour all over everything. That's okay. Okay. I guess the point is also to try to do this so that the butter doesn't get all melty before you're done. It is looking shaggy and crumbly. Okay. Part of me thinks I don't want to know that I can make pie dough because then I will just make pie a lot more than I do now. And I don't think we need that in this house. We are going to need... This recipe also didn't say things like don't over knead, which I think is also a thing we want to avoid doing. How till it comes together. So it says to add ice water if it's not coming together, but this is coming together. I think. Okay. So now I'm supposed to press onto plastic wrap into a disc. Don't want to over knead. I'm gonna wash my hands real fast and then we're gonna put it into the cling wrap and then into the fridge. Cling wrap. Look at me having everything I need on hand. It's probably never gonna happen again. Okay, cling wrap. We're gonna put that onto the cling wrap, press onto plastic wrap in a disc. Wrap. Okay. We have something that resembles dough-ish, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that into the fridge for about 30 minutes. Remember earlier when I was patting myself on the back for like having everything out that I needed and I was feeling real good about how this was going? I realized that since I have this super neat recipe on the pie dish that as soon as I rolled out the dough and put it on, I would no longer know how to make the filling. So I am going to go ahead and make the filling now instead of while I'm pre-baking the crust. What do they call it? Par-baking the crust, because we definitely know what we're doing and have done that before. So I'm just going to take a minute and make up the pumpkin pie filling as it is on this really cool recipe from 1983. Thank you, Jennifer. So we're going to line baker with 10-inch pie crust recipe. Can't do that yet because the pie dough is still chilling and I am going to just go ahead and make the filling. We are going to beat 3 eggs with whip. I'm gonna assume that means like whisk them. So 3 eggs. Able to crack it well. Okay, that's much better. That's less embarrassing. Ooh. Shouldn't have said anything. Should have kept my mouth shut. This one's even worse. Okay, well, you know, that's all right because I have a towel here for just that purpose. Okay, so we're gonna beat the eggs with a whip, and then we have to blend in the remaining ingredients. Full cup of sugar. Okay. And then put in the pumpkin. It's 2 3/4 cups canned pumpkin. I swear I put another, 2 3/4 cup. That is not what I measured out. Of course it's not what I measured out. Okay, we're just gonna, these were not the problems I thought I was gonna have making this. Okay, there's 1 cup. Could I find a more awkward way of doing this? Probably not. It's because I didn't wash the other thing I needed, my spatula. This is not. Okay, hold on. This is what I wanted. Okay. Wow. You know, I should have just known that we would want Thanksgiving things on Thanksgiving and prepped accordingly, but instead, this is what we're doing now, and it's more fun. 1/4 cup, not quite. Oh, just a messy bee. Yes, we are. Now you might be saying, Ashley, that doesn't look very precise, and don't you know you have to be precise with baking? That is the problem I have with baking, and apparently we're not going to conquer that today. Let's make this as awkward as possible. Okay, there we go. And then we wanted 1 1/2 teaspoons of cinnamon. 1 1/2 teaspoon. 1/2 teaspoon. 1/2 teaspoon. And 3 makes 1 1/2. Okay, and then we're gonna put in 3/4 teaspoons of ginger. You guys. This is about right for any baking thing. It might have turned out differently if I'd planned to do this, but instead we're just gonna go with what we got. Okay, 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, which we don't have, and then nutmeg. 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. Okay, that was a 1/2 teaspoon. Good. I'm glad I checked that after I dumped it in there. I'm also going to cover the sugar because we all know the way things are going. I'm just going to dump something in there. We're going to mix all this together. And then the last thing we have is 2 1/4 cups of evaporated milk, which luckily I have on hand. I never had evaporated milk here before the pandemic, because in our pre-pandemic buying, I was like, ooh, evaporated milk, just in case, we can't go to the store and we need milk for something. Okay, mostly it was because I was making a lot of banana bread at the beginning of the pandemic. I wasn't brave enough to try the whole sourdough starter thing, but I definitely was baking a whole lot. So I went ahead and shake well. It says on the can, shake well. Look at me following one direction today. So 2 1/4 cups evaporated milk. Probably should have had a bigger bowl, but look, the way things are going, we are lucky if I don't spill this. Okay, so we've mixed all the ingredients. Did I get them all? Let's do a double check. 3 eggs, yes. 2 3/4 cups canned pumpkin, yes, because that was the whole thing. 1 cup of sugar, did that. 3/4 teaspoons of salt. I did not put that in there. 3/4 teaspoons salt. Okay. All right, 1.5 teaspoons cinnamon, did that. 3/4 cup ginger, did that. 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, did not have that. 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, did that. 3 1/4 cups evaporated milk, did that. Totally misread that as 3/4 cups and then had a bit of a brain panic there, although I could always add more evaporated milk. Okay, so this is a really attractive sound. But also, I mean, that looks pumpkin pie filling-esque. So we are just gonna put this in the fridge to chill while I move the camera so we can watch me try to make pie crust. And then we will put this in, hopefully our successful pie crust, and we'll have pumpkin pie approximately like maybe an hour and a half after we put it in the oven.